Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now we're taking a look at LRC here today, and I've reviewed this a few times in the past, so I've got a really good group of folks asking for me to cover this again based on the recent price action. So we'll take a look at the technical charts. No fundamentals here. Feel free to include that in the description below if you'd like. And if you want to know more about what I have to offer here, feel free to reference, my Telegram group. We have a really good group of folks there. And just know I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should always do your own research. Okay. Now, I do also have a link to my Patreon account if you'd like to consider that. I have a signal group. I provide 3 to 5 signals per week, and we had an 83% success rate this week. So feeling pretty good about that. Feel free to reference that. Just recommend waiting till the first to get engaged there, just based on the fact that it's a much better volume based on how Patreon works, right? I'm going to create my own website in the near future and change that to a rolling payment so it's a lot easier for you. However, for now, that's available to you if you'd like to consider that. Nonetheless, don't just go ahead and forget about all that. Let's check that out. Let's go ahead and get right to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at LRC. And thank you again to my community for reaching out, asking for me to cover this. I've gotten a lot of requests on this one recently, and just now looks like it was taken off here just a moment ago. So happy to review this for you. Thanks again. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to consider subscribing, of course, because we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum to get a baseline of the market so we understand big picture, what's going on, so we can make a well-informed decision before jumping into an investment, right? So let's take a look at that. We always start with Bitcoin first, and I start with the 4-hour chart because that's my main, kind of my go-to essentially, and it works the best for the moving averages, which is the 200 and the 50-day moving average. So just to clarify, this purple line is the 200-day moving average, and the yellow is the 50. All right, so we got the 50 and the 200, and I use those because that's kind of the industry standard. All the whales, all the bulls, all the bears, everyone controlling the market uses these indicators. And as we can tell here, just take a look at this. Big surprise, the price was held down for approximately, 16 hours for 4 red bars. Well, three red bars essentially, but 4 hour time frames essentially. And what we see, big breakthrough. No surprise, this happens quite a lot. Whenever a moving average is broken, it breaks hard, it breaks fast. So that is what happened here. We hope the same thing can continue so we can get upwards momentum past the 200-day moving average here in the near future. But just to summarize here, we do have, basically 30,000 for the support level and 42,000 for the resistance currently for Bitcoin. All right, moving on to Ethereum. Almost the same thing happened here, only difference is Ethereum is much lower overall in price. Still stuck in this little channel here, but lately Ethereum's been kind of just getting hit hard, whereas Bitcoin's been jumping around. Basically, Ethereum used to be, will likely still be in the future, but it used to be the go-to coin for a lot of folks when Bitcoin did poorly. Now, unfortunately, it's kind of getting hammered and it's drawing dead, but there's life breathing back into Ethereum here now, so this is a really good sign. We jumped up a pretty decent amount here, and as you can tell, the 4-hour time frame here closed above the 50-day moving average, so it's fantastic. It's now a support. Next major milestone is the 200 right here at approximately 2,400. So here's to hoping Ethereum picks up speed and momentum. And by the way, too, if Bitcoin can continue, of course, still a long ways away from this, but if Bitcoin can rally back up to just say 41,000, break that 42,000 mark, and close above that, we're gonna be in really good shape to see Ethereum take off, right? We need some stability in the market for Ethereum to kind of come back, if you will, just because of the fact that most people are taking their market capitalization elsewhere because Ethereum's getting, as we can see, fairly hammered, as I've already mentioned. All right, so looking at LRC here. And as you can see, obviously, a lot of volume in the last 8 hours, but let's go ahead and take a look at the 1-day chart here first. Now, just something to note, as you can tell, it goes on kind of random spurts. I've covered it before, and it had this really strong ramp up. It had another one here as well for another sell-off. That is the May 12th. That's the Elon candle, of course, big surprise. But as we can tell, there's been a lot of, I guess it's been pretty consistent. However, recently it was drawing dead, and now just out of nowhere kind of hit hard. So if anyone knows the fundamental reason why this happened, let me know, because it's interesting. LRC took off before Bitcoin did here today. Maybe it was like just a few hours beforehand. So obviously, there's some kind of catalyst there that was not factoring in what Bitcoin does, right? Something to note here as well. Let's take a quick look at the time frames. So I just like to identify this because April 17th, 22nd, 25th were three major sell-offs for Bitcoin. And I just kind of like to identify that. So let's see if we can find, so April 17th right here. Okay. So it does look like it was affected there. 22nd as well, same thing here, and everything recovered on the 25th because Bitcoin went sideways here for a moment. LRC took off. Look at this. LRC took off on the 11th and unfortunately got hit hard on the 12th because this is the Elon candle essentially. You see this large, it's essentially a negative volume bar, so we had a major sell-off there. I mean, normally you see a retracement of 50%. That was about probably like an 80% retracement, so it's pretty rough. And unfortunately, May 19th, May 18th, this is the China candle essentially. So you can kind of see what's going on there. LRC is not flawless. It does have a reliancy on Bitcoin. Most altcoins do, but some can kind of counteract Bitcoin or not get as impacted as this one did. So just keep that in mind. But here's the interesting thing. Here today, this volume that we're seeing happened again before Bitcoin. So we'll take a look at that here in a moment. Just a note, RSI is very low. Obviously, we see RSI under 30 here recently. That could have led to this push. Furthermore, we see the MACD swinging upwards just yesterday. So that's a really good sign. Commonly, when you see the MACD swinging upwards like this, that is the convergence. When the 12 intersects with the 26, we will see a swing in that direction, right? So that could have also been a catalyst there as well for a lot of swing traders, because that's essentially a good tool for swing traders on the 1 day and the 4-hour chart. Last but not least, we got both moving averages still above the price action. I don't care too much about the 1 day chart in this sense. Sometimes there's a death cross you got to worry about, but we all kind of faced that recently with Bitcoin, so not a big deal. But generally speaking, we want to look at the 4-hour chart next and kind of look at the moving averages. That's where they matter the most. So here's what we can see here. First of all, obviously, volume was fairly stagnant throughout the week, and just 8 hours ago, we saw this thing take off. So 8 hours ago, LRC just decided it wanted to ramp up. But look at this. It broke through the 50 and it broke hard. Always understand that anytime there's a moving average, just say the 50 and or the 200, when the price is trying to break above, it'll either reject for a while, as we saw with Bitcoin, and then eventually just break through really fast and really hard. Same thing happened here as well, where it kind of tested and continued through. It didn't even essentially reject. However, we do see the 200 right here. It did get rejected at approximately 30 cents. So we're going to see, hopefully, some sideways action here for a little while and then another ramp back up. So if Bitcoin can kind of stay sideways for a moment and not get, super retraced or, come back down under where it's at presently, I think we're going to see LRC continue to take off and get back. Because if we look at this, I forgot to note this here as well. Look at the average true range for LRC. I mean, it literally hung out up here for a long time until we had this major sell-off from Bitcoin on the 18th and 19th, okay? So that tells me that the price action should be anywhere between 47 cents upwards of about 65 cents. And with it being down here at about 26, it's extremely affordable right now, and it has tremendous opportunity to, you can, 2 or 3 times your investment if you can get a decent position in here, okay? So it's still very, very good position, obviously. 26 cents, compared to 20 recently, obviously that was nice. But 26, I feel, just big picture here, is looking very good still. All right, so just keep that in mind. Now let's go ahead and move down to the 1-hour chart. Actually, before we do that, let's quickly look at the RSI on the 4-hour chart. And just something to note, obviously, big surprise is up over 70, coming back down. That's not a big deal because there's a good strong chance that this should continue sideways and or continue upwards. Okay. Also to note, the MACD did swing upwards here as well. That put us right in this range here. So pretty much the same place that that we saw the MACD on the 1-day chart. We saw the same kind of increase. So that's happening again on the 4-hour, basically just telling us that we're getting these good buy signals for a long position, essentially for swing traders, right? Now, what's nice is the price isn't still up to upwards of 32 cents. I'm glad it came back down. So I feel much more comfortable with the price action being around 27. All right, so that's the 4-hour. I like to look at the 1-hour chart because I'm usually a 4-hour guy, right? I use the 4-hour chart is my favorite. I use it for pretty much everything. Just quickly identifying, swing trading, even day trading, I look at it really quick. But the bottom line here is the 1-hour chart is helpful in the sense that you want to look at the cloud and kind of see what's going on. Big surprise. Take a look at this here. Right where the MACD had signaled to us that we got a buy signal. The Ichimoku cloud on the 1 hour chart is also telling us we got a buy signal. And if you're new to this chart, what it does, it really helps us understand if it's bullish or bearish. In other words, when the price is over the cloud, it's considered bullish. If it's under, it's considered bearish, right? So you should hypothetically short here. Like, look, if you look back here, had you shorted when it's under the cloud, you would have gotten pretty good gains, right? It went from 30 cents all the way down to about 18. That would have been a 30%, just under 30% increase in investment had you got in at the highest point and got out in the lowest. Granted, that rarely happens, right? We're always searching for the bottom and never truly finding it. But bottom line here is that we see the obvious indicator here on the Ichimoku cloud telling us the price action is increasing, and that right there would have been a really good entry point. Okay, again, it's easier said than done. Hindsight's 20/20, but in this case in point, that would have been something to pay attention to and look for. Right? So that is the cloud. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 15. And really quick here, we'll go ahead and get rid of this volume guy. And just want to show you here a couple of things. So first of all, EMA and VWAP. Now, if you're familiar with the EMA line, it's the exponential moving average. I use it on smaller time frames because it responds quicker to the price action. It makes more sense. So I use the 15 on the 15-minute chart or less. And I also use the volume weighted average price, which is this blue line. Now, the VWAP essentially tells us when the price action is either considered above or below. In other words, the volume weighted average price is the volume the last 24 hours expressed as a price. So in this scenario here, right now, the price is almost identical to where the actual volume average is at. Okay, so that's a good sign. In other words, it's right at the consolidation phase. Okay, when it's above or below, it's either considered a support or resistance level. So back here is obviously working as a support for quite some time, and so was the EMA. So the ideal entry point is to look for two solid green bars above the EMA and VWAP line, right? Those are my indications of a good buy signal, because of the fact that it kind of tells you that you have 30 minutes of consistency in the right direction when the bulls are in control. Okay. Now the inverse could also work for the bearish signals. Don't get me wrong, that still works, but not everybody shorts, so I like to just kind of get that across. But look in here, if you see, do you see this little yellow indicator? Coincidentally, right when the Ichimoku cloud had crossed, this is right where the price came above the cloud. This indicator is telling us. Now, this is an indication of a buy signal. In other words, it's my indication that I use on my charts, and it's an EMA VWAP notification, right? So I've got this guy here that was created by one of my Patreon members. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you, by the way. And what this does, this is available through my premium Patreon account, and this tells you when the signal is to buy. In other words, right here, we got two solid green bars above EMA and VWAP. That would be an indication of a buy signal, right? So say you'd gotten in right there at approximately what? That would be about 22 cents. You could have hypothetically, got a pretty strong gain of anywhere between 35 to 40%. Right now, again, it's hard to find the top, right? But there's ways around that. But what I'm getting at here is the fact that when you try to take entry in this kind of market, in this kind of climate, when obviously the RSI is very, very low prior to this, in other words, we look at because the price was super low on the 4-hour chart, right? So RSI is going to be pretty low all in all, right? So in this range here, you're looking at RSI at about 40. So just something to pay attention to, because when you're on the 15-minute chart and you see that it's considered oversold still, and then you get a buy signal like this, it's a good time to consider entry. So what I'm trying to get at here is that try to pay attention to confirmation. Right now at this point in time, we don't have good confirmation because it's consolidating, it's going sideways after retracement. But if we get another potential ramp back up and we get this kind of indication here, in other words, two solid green bars above EMA and VWAP, then that's a consideration for taking entry. Okay, so again, just something to think about and to utilize essentially, in this kind of scenario. Because for me, if I'm taking entry without confirmation, it's kind of just gambling at that point. But when you have confirmation that the price is moving in the direction that you're trying to head, and that the bulls are in control, those industry leaders are essentially using these very similar type of indicators, then you want to get on board with them and ride the wave. So essentially that would have been a good point. Again, easier said than done, I realize that, but just pay attention to those type of signals. It really helps to understand that. But obviously if you get the price is over the cloud on the 1 hour chart. You've got your MACD is giving you a signal on the 4 hour chart, and then you also see an indication like this. These are things that I like to look for. Every time frame has its benefit. You can't use one indicator in every single time frame. It doesn't work that way. I get a question all the time about the Ichimoku cloud, if I can use it on the 15-minute chart. Of course you can. It's not to say you can't. It's just that it's not as effective as a 1 hour chart. So always use Ichimoku on the 1 hour. I prefer to use the MACD on the 4 hour chart, as well as the moving averages, the 50 and the 200. In this case here, obviously, we use the EMA 15 on the 15-minute chart or less, and the VWAP. So those are just the tools I use to become more of a successful trader. This past week in my signal group, we had an 83% success rate. So things are definitely going very well based on these metrics here. And this is a really strange market too, so it's a little more challenging to be I guess effective, but thankfully I have the time to be able to find these signals, and that's the reason why I have that available through my premium Patreon account, link in the description below. So if there's anything else I can help you with, of course, feel free to reach out through my Telegram community. I have a really good group of folks there. In fact, I've got some admins that are really awesome. They'll be more than happy to help you in my stead. But bottom line here is that I want you to be careful. I want you to be cautious when you take entry. Oh, by the way, of course, I want to give you the prediction, right? You want the projection, whatever the case is. Let's just quickly address that here, because it's fairly straightforward. In other words, we go to the 1-day chart, we look at this big picture here. Again, I mentioned this before, LRC should be in the range of 41 cents to upwards of right around 65, 67 cents. So again, with the price being as affordable as 27 cents or lower, it's a good signal. It's a good price. It's a good time to buy, right? Now, again, if you're trying to just make a quick profit on a 1-day time frame or less, a day trade, then you want to be very cautious and use the 15-minute chart and utilize the EMA and VWAP indications, right? We want to know what's going on a smaller scale. But to me, at this point in time, I do feel like it's going to retrace a little bit, but it's already kind of done so. Because here's a beautiful thing: when there's a massive increase, let's just say, for example, let's go with the 1 hour chart, just to give you a perspective. So in the last 2 hours, we had a significant increase, right? The price went up 37% in 2 hours. Now, where's the price right now? It's almost exactly halfway. Now, in crypto, you'll notice that there's a consistency with crypto, where anytime there's a price increase, because the price increases go so hard, so quick, when you have a fast increase like this, the retracement will almost always be 50 to 60%. So with the price action being right where it's at, it's pretty much going to probably continue to go sideways for a while. So my guess is, unless there's some major shorting opportunities for some of the industry leaders, we're going to probably see the price go sideways and continue to try to shoot a little bit higher, right? So just again, something to note, and let's just quickly identify this too. We do kind of have a major support and resistance level here. So I would venture to guess that 27 cents is a potential support and resistance level, because we see, look, it's been tested 1, 2, 3 times there and almost 5 times there. So again, this is kind of a loose support and resistance, but I'm not surprised to see the price action kind of staying right there. So if we can get the price to break above that and to hold above that, then we should likely see it continue to increase. But again, it just depends on what kind of trader you are. If you're a long-term swing trader, then I would say any price under 30 cents is very affordable, very realistic. My prediction is the price will, again, pending Bitcoin going sideways or higher, if Bitcoin can get 41 or 42,000, we're going to see LRC take off again and again. It's going to go on a significant bull run here in the near future because it's extremely oversold. The price is extremely low. So I think it's going to hit 40 cents in the next week or less. That's my guess. Again, it just depends on how Bitcoin performs. If Bitcoin tests 30,000 again, none of this matters. But the interesting thing here is that LRC did perform. If you can see here for the timing, it took off and did quite well before Bitcoin just recently took off. So there's that as well. Either way, hopefully you found benefit. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I like to try to educate in my videos, so please understand that. And I hope you did find benefit. Again, all the information you need is in the description below for my Telegram community, Patreon. Feel free to follow me on social media and all that stuff. But I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. You take great care. Thank you.